All right, check, radio check. We're at the magic hour in spirit of Halloween. I'll even go so far as to say we're at the witching hour. I want to welcome all of you onto today's call. Thank you for hopping on and taking time out of your busy schedules. We have a special guest with us today who's going to be co-presenting with me, Caitlin. If any of you have dealt with her in the past, you know. She is arguably one of the most knowledgeable people in the industry on Medicare, Medicaid, and integration of healthcare into your portfolios and your planning. So I've asked her to join us today and to present, and she'll take us through a few slides. But before we get started, what I wanted to basically throw out there is, I am for the first time ever, if you're on this call and I haven't done a plan for you before, haven't built out a model for you, October is financial planning month. And so in the spirit of that, I wanted to throw out a service that I could easily charge $1,500 to $3,000 for. And to basically say, if you get me the items that are here on the list, Caitlin's going to go ahead and drop into, or maybe while she's presenting, I'll drop in this first item, the PPS client intake form. Go ahead, download that. We don't need sensitive information. So, if you want to block out Social Security numbers, account numbers, all that stuff's fine. But we do use, once you decide to take us up on this, get this stuff. And at the bottom of my email, chris@professionalplanningservices.com, right, you can actually drop those into a share file, a secure file. So, the best way to go on any trip, to go to any destination, the first thing you need is a map. And that's what I view this as, is really just taking all these financial instruments that you've accumulated over your working years, and then how to coordinate them both from a risk perspective, a tax perspective, and a cash flow perspective, so that you can make sure that you get to where you're trying to get to as efficiently as possible. So again, this is only going to be available for October. So if you want our help, we're happy to do so. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead. Caitlin, if you want to turn on your camera, go ahead, say hi to everybody and have at it, and welcome.
Hi, happy to be here and excited to talk to everybody about annual election period. Today, you're going to start to hear a whole lot on the TV, radio, everywhere about annual election period. So we wanted to provide a place where we could answer common questions when it came to what you can do during annual election period, and kind of cancel out some of that noise that you might be experiencing. So annual election period runs each year from October 15th to December 7th. So it's coming up here really quickly. And it's not open enrollment, so you can't do everything during the annual election period. And we'll go over that in a few slides. Next.
Hey, does this play button, does this do anything?
No, ignore that.
Okay.
Okay, so just an overview of the different topics we're going to cover on this call. We're going to go over what annual election period is, and we'll talk about who can make changes during this time and what changes can be made and what should enrollees do. So we'll cover what you should be doing each year once you are enrolled in Medicare during the annual election period. And then finally, there are some big changes coming in 2025, so we're going to touch on those things as well. Next. So what is the AEP, annual election period? So CMS describes the annual election period from October 15th through December 7th as the time when all people with Medicare, so you have to be enrolled already, can make changes to their Medicare health plans and their prescription drug coverage for the following year to better meet their needs. So the new coverage will take effect on January 1st. Of the following year. So basically, you're going to be reviewing your current Medicare plans during this time. Next.
Hey, before you do that, is it just me, or does the government like to use a lot of letters and numbers?
Yes, they do. If you are newly eligible for Medicare, Do not wait for annual election period. So say you're eligible for November 1st and you're thinking, oh, well, I got to wait. I'll enroll during annual election period and my coverage won't start until January. I get this all the time. It's just not true. You have a special election period if you're just turning 65. So don't wait. Don't think you have to wait until January for your effective date, and make sure that you're taking the right steps now in order to get your coverage in place for the first of the month of your birthday. Next. So what changes can be made during AEP? So we're going to explore the changes next.
Sorry.
So there are three common annual election period scenarios. The first is you already have original Medicare and you've also got Medigap or Medicare Supplement. The second is you have a Medicare Advantage plan. So you're currently enrolled in Medicare Advantage. And most of those include your prescription drug coverage as well. And the third scenario where you could make changes would be if you were already in original Medicare, so parts A and B, with or without Part D. So Part D, I always say D is for drugs. So original Medicare is A and B, and you have Part D. You can make changes as well during AEP. Next.
So before we go on, one of the things I think, now I'm going to just put in my 2 cents. In my career of over 30 years, and Caitlin and Keith in my office have close to 15 years each with me. So collectively, we have almost 60 years. But one thing that we all understand is that it costs money to advertise. Doesn't matter for whatever platform you want to advertise on. If you want to send a postcard, if you want to send in a letter, if you want to do radio commercials, if you want to do a seminar, if you want to do TV broadcasting, and I specified TV broadcasting because it's amazing to me how many advertisements I see on TV around this time of year, heading into and through. So, what does that tell me? It tells me I know firsthand, we all know firsthand how absolutely expensive it is to advertise. So, all of these companies are vying for your business. And what you have here is you have insurance companies and you have the government who have, joined at the hip to promote messages. And so, when your mailbox, and again, because there's a cost, you may not get it as much anymore. When you got a mailbox full of, solicitations for different types of plans, that should be telling you that they're making money here and they want your business. Part of what we do at Professional Planning Services, and I'm absolutely going to encourage you, there are no deals in the insurance industry. We are licensed advisors. In order to be able to talk about, we have to follow very strict guidelines to provide you with the information. But you're not going to get the one-on-one hand-holding from the person on the other end of the phone. So I would strongly encourage you. This stuff is complex. It is. I mean, we held last year. We held college workshops on this topic. We filled the room. As people are aging, approaching, and Caitlin just shared with me a story the other day where somebody had inadvertently gotten misinformation, neglected to enroll in Medicare Part B in their drug plan, and now is faced with penalties. You got to get this right. So I'm encouraging you, please, if you have questions, start early, start often, and come and let us help you to pick the best plans. We're licensed in many states, in the tri-state area specifically, so we can help meet your needs. Sorry to digress there, but I felt that was worth mentioning.
Very good. All right, you can go to there you go. You are enrolled in Medigap. So this is that first scenario. So Medigap is the same as Medicare Supplemental. During AEP, you can go ahead and you can change your Part D. Usually when you're in Medigap, you also have a prescription drug coverage plan that you've tacked on. During AEP, you can change that Part D plan. You can switch from Medigap, meaning you stop your Medicare supplemental plan and enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan during AEP for a January 1st effective, or you can change your Medigap carriers. Now that one's a little bit with Medigap, you can change your plan at any day for the first of the next month, right? So you don't have to wait until AEP, but you can do that during AEP as well. The next scenario is you are enrolled in Medicare Advantage. So if you're in a Medicare Advantage or Part C plan already, you can change from one Advantage plan to another Advantage plan for January 1st. You can apply for Medigap coverage and Part D coverage. So you can drop your Part C coverage, your Medicare Advantage, and you can move to Medigap during this time. And you can also add some enhanced dental and vision coverage. I've had people do this before where they had, for example, one popular carrier in New Jersey, they had their plan and they just didn't, weren't getting a lot when it came to the free dental that came with the plan. So they tacked on, the $50 extra dental coverage because it made sense for them. A lot of people it won't make sense for, but you can add that during AEP for January 1st as well. Thank you. You are enrolled in Original Medicare. This is the next scenario, and this is if you only have Part A and Part B and maybe a prescription drug plan that you've tacked onto that, right? So you can enroll in a standalone drug plan at this time for a January 1st effective. You can enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan. So what you'll do is you'll take your red, white, and blue card from Original Medicare, put that away in a safe, and Medicare Advantage will administer all of your benefits. So you can choose a carrier for that. You can apply and enroll in a Medigap plan during this time. And just keep in mind that you have to pass health underwriting to enroll in a Medigap plan outside of your Medigap open enrollment period, which is an entirely different time. And you can change your Part D coverage if you're already enrolled. Next.
Yeah, and in case that was confusing, we do this for a living. This is why you got to get this right. Just the vernaculars, the terminology, and the vocabulary in and of itself. Like I said, the government likes to use a lot of letters. They like to use a lot of acronyms, and there's a lot of penalties if you don't. So please, please, please. And I'm going to say this. Caitlin just dropped in her calendar link. If you, not only if it's not, maybe you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not there yet. But all of us on this call know somebody that is 64 years old, or maybe they've already bought this. And now what's happening, and you're going to see some of the changes that are happening for 2025, it may make sense, or you may have no choice to start to shop your plan. Please tap into our resources. We're making this offer because we've been doing this for a while, and we're going to guide you to get this right. So just want to make sure you take advantage of that.
Perfect. So again, this is not open enrollment, and I just want to make that clear because you can't do everything during annual election period. You can only make certain changes. And if you are in a Medicare supplemental plan, you can't just switch from one plan to another without medical underwriting. That's why it's not open enrollment. It's not like your old company insurance or individual plan where there was no underwriting. You can just go from one plan to another during their open enrollment period. There are rules and things that you just can't do during this time. So next. Medicare's annual election period. This is just a little illustration for you. So you can see that it begins on October 15th. It ends on December 7th. And your new coverage will begin on January 1st. Next. And finally, what should you do? We can use this timeline in order to determine what you should be doing during annual election period each year. So let's take a look. The first thing that you should do is make sure if you have any questions that you're contacting us. And again, my link is in the chat. Contact us every year around October 1st through the 15th so you can get on our calendar for annual election period. Next. This is the AEP timeline. So the first thing that you'll notice if you're in a Medicare Advantage plan is you'll get something called an ANOC, or an annual notice of change, because there's another one of those acronyms for you. So at the end of September, you're going to wait for that. That you probably got that in the mailbox already if you're in a Medicare Advantage or Part C plan. And it's going to come with your evidence of coverage as well. It's just going to be kind of a side by side of your plan from 2024 and the plan that you're renewing into for 2025. So that's a really good document to take a look at, see what changes are happening, see if the plan still makes sense for you, right? The next thing is you're going to compare your current plan to other plans on the market. So you never know. Maybe there's a better plan out there for you based on your doctors and your prescription. So I always recommend we pop those into Medicare.gov. We take a look at that, make sure you're in the right plan for you for January 1st. And number 3, we want to enroll in a new plan that fits you best or keep your current coverage. Next. There are a ton of big changes coming in 2025, and it is mostly in terms of what's happening with the prescription drug plans or Part D. It's really going to significantly impact the Medicare beneficiaries, and this is coming with the Inflation Reduction Act. So let's take a look at those changes. Next. First thing that's going to apply to your Part D plans is they've put an annual cap on out-of-pocket costs. So previously, there was no like declared annual cap, max out-of-pocket on Part D plans. So one of the most anticipated changes is the introduction of this $2,000 cap. It's really is going to reduce out-of-pocket costs for Medicare beneficiaries. And I love that because, I mean, there's people who are taking expensive medications and, you know, in January, the bill is tremendous. And, you know, it's a hard bite to chew. So next. The other thing that they're doing is they're offering the smoothing out of out-of-pocket costs. So this is something that's called the prescription drug payment plan. And what it is doing is it's not going to reduce your out-of-pocket costs, but it's just going to allow you to spread it over the course of a year. So it's important that as you're renewing, you make sure that you're in a plan that's allowing this new feature, the payment plan, and that you're alerting them that you would like to participate prior to January 1st. If you typically have, you know, you're paying your deductible in January for your drug plan, you can smooth that cost out for yourself. Next.
Yeah, and the way that, Caitlin and I, when we were talking, and she was explaining to me, so think of it like this. If any of you have, ever dealt with here in New Jersey, it's PSE&G, but it could be JCP&L. Sometimes, in the winter months, we'll have a high utilization of either natural gas, or if you're on oil heat, right? So you get these big bills. So what they'll do to help to smooth that, they'll allow you to pay it over time, right? Over the course of the year. It's the same concept with drugs. So instead of it being fuel costs, this is for prescription meds. So I hopefully that helps clarify what the difference is there.
Absolutely. I love that analogy. So price negotiation for prescription drugs. Okay. So for the first time, Medicare is allowed to directly negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies on the prescription drug costs. So it's really big news because, you know, some of those really expensive drugs can now be negotiated. It's part of a broader effort to reduce the overall cost of medications for Medicare beneficiaries. And it looks like they're going to start with 10 drugs to negotiate first. So, just the highest cost one. So it's expected to reduce those costs on those drugs right up front. Next.
Step in the right direction.
Yeah. So next is the elimination of the Medicare Part D coverage gap or the donut hole. So this has been slowly closing over the last few years, but in 2025, it's been completely eliminated, which means the beneficiaries won't face any higher cost sharing phase between your initial coverage limit and the catastrophic coverage that is typically at the end of the payment structure within Part D plans. Next. They're expanding the eligibility for low income subsidies. So if you are lower income and you had what Medicare refers to as their extra help, that is a program that helps reduce the cost of your prescription drug plan, as well as your prescriptions as you fill them, right? Your deductibles, your coinsurance. So they're going to expand eligibility for that. So that'll be good for a lot of people. Next. The insulin cap, so that $35 monthly cap on insulin copays, they're going to keep that. Next. Improve vaccination coverage. So they did this because a lot of elderly folks weren't getting certain vaccines because the out-of-pocket cost was high. For example, the Shingrix vaccine for shingles. People would skip that because it would cost them, over $100 out of pocket. Now, they've made all of the vaccines that are approved by the Advisory Committee on Immunization free. So great news there. Next. Note on the Part B premium. So just so you know, the Part B premium, the standard premium, changes every year on January 1st with the cost of living adjustment. They have not officially announced that adjustment yet. Typically comes around this time, but they said they'll announce that by the end of 2025. And they're expected to increase it by about 5.9%. So you're looking at somewhere around $185 in 2025 per month if you were paying the standard premium. So remember that Medicare Part B's premium is income related. So if you're making higher income, you're going to pay more. Next.
Yeah, and so what you're referring to, and that's one of the things we'll talk about, in October, we've also identified October as Rocktober. So if you're doing Roth conversions, so anything that can help elevate your income, this is what we call a stealth tax, right? So it's basically premiums that we all have to pay, but it's based on means testing that however much income you're generating can help also increase your Medicare premiums as well. Have to pay close attention to that. And again, working with professional planning services with Caitlin, Keith, or myself, we can help guide you, give you advice, because it's not just because it costs more doesn't mean that Roth conversions are not in your best interest. We just have to be strategic and tactical when we do so.
Absolutely. So finally, just to recap, the annual election period is the time for current Medicare beneficiaries to change their Medicare coverage. It begins October 15th and ends on December 7th of every year, and your new coverage will begin on January 1st. And you should be reviewing and assessing your current coverage during this time. And again, it's not open enrollment, so there are limits on what you can do.
All
Next.
right, so Caitlin, I want to say fabulous job always. Again, she is, in my opinion, and I don't use these terms lightly, an expert in this area. I just have one of my longtime good clients of mine. He's going to turn 65 in February, and if we know your birth date and we pick you up on our radar, we will reach out and offer our services to help you to integrate this, because we know you're going to get solicited on this stuff anyway. And as I mentioned earlier, you might as well deal with people that you know and trust. But if there's people that you think we should be introduced to, right? Please don't keep us a secret. Please tap into Caitlin's calendar, send us an email, call the office and say, hey, I have a friend, I have a neighbor, I have a family member that I would really like you to look at their plans. This could be for your mom and dad. This could be for your aunt, your uncle, your grandparents, right? So any of that stuff, we're happy to help. And as I mentioned, this stuff is complex, right? So we spent last year, we predominantly were talking about long-term care, custodial care, extended care, and then simultaneously we were doing Medicare and the complexities, and we were filling the room with that. This year we've focused on Social Security, and so we run workshops at Rutgers Business School. And our last one of the year are going to be October 26th and November 2nd. We've already started getting people to register for this. The mailing just hit the mailboxes this week, so we're seeing registrations come in. But if you're on this call, if you know anybody that can and should be there, we're going to ask you to, hey, go ahead. Let us know. We'll make room for you. We'd love to see you. And again, these are educational only. Nothing's going to be sold, but we find that you got to get this right. Everybody thinks that they know Social Security. Everybody thinks that they understand this stuff, but you have to integrate this with your specifics to be able to maximize and be the most efficient that you can be. So please make sure that if you want to attend, that you reach out. I see somebody, so that was Caitlin just put in. So that's the registration link was just dropped into the chat. So just make sure to click on that before I go too quickly. And then lastly, this is our disclosure just showing that everything that we said here has been through compliance and we're meeting our regulatory and compliance duties. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day and look forward to seeing you all soon.